All right, let's get started with some important history lessons. One of the things that I see daily in our financial planning practice is way too many people taking way too much risk. What we always say around our firm is protect the income you need to live on in retirement so you can maximize the income for the things you want. And one of the things that we see and also try to remove from our clients' lives is a lot of unnecessary risk. So let's look at some of the math here. In the Great Depression of 1929, we had a loss period of 2.8 years. World War II, we had another down market of 2.1 years. Oil embargo, 1974, 2 years. Internet bubble, 2.1 years. I remember that one. Oh, doggies. But it was kind of a slow deal. And then this one, the Great Recession, market lost 39.5% in 1.3 years. This was like a slow kind of, all the dot-coms kept going down. This was like right off the cliff. Took more freaked out phone calls right here than I did in the entire, how long had I been in business then? 18 years? Yeah, than the entire 18 years before that in like 1 3-month window. COVID, we had that super, even steeper drawdown, but it only lasted 31 days. And then we had in 2022, the inflation surge that was 1 year, everything lost 20-ish%. And something very interesting there was not only did the stock market lose money, but bonds lost money as well. And a lot of people don't even realize that's possible, but bonds lose money. And about once every 12 years, you have them both lose money in a 12-year cycle. Sadly, it's not like exactly 12 years because then we could all just run for the hills, put our money in the mattress, get out. But here's the more important statistic that I want you guys to pay attention to. So during the Great Depression, the market drawdown was 2.8 years, but it was 12 years before you got back to the money that you started with at the beginning. So it was a 12-year recovery. World War II, we had a 2.1-year loss period, but it took 4 years to get back to break even. So the total time was 14.8, 6.1, 8 years on the oil embargo, 10 years on the internet bubble, because these two kind of went together. So this kind of went down and then went back up, and then this one turned around and did the other. And then we had COVID-19 recovered all within the same year. The year ended positive. And then you have the inflation surge down here where it was 1 year of a drop, but it took 241 days to get back to break even. But what I really want you guys to grasp out of this lesson is imagine if you retired right here. So you think, I got $1 million or whatever your number is, right? That's a commercial on TV. They're like, what's your number? And everybody walks around with their numbers on their head. See, it's not about the number because the number can change if you're not protecting the number. And so you need to be thinking in terms of income because that's what you spend. And we want to, again, protect the income you need in retirement for your life necessities so we can maximize the income for the things that you want to do in retirement. So let me give you some scary math. Again, you retire right here, lost money, got it back, lost it again. So again, these two kind of go together. And we call that the lost decades of 2000 to 2011, because if you started that year with $1 million and it was in the market and you didn't touch it, you ended the year with $1 million as well. So if you touched it, totally different story. Let me give you some other scary math, and then we'll wrap this lesson up and talk about the takeaways. If you had a loss of 20% 2 years in a row, so you got $100,000 and you take a 20% loss, now you've got 80. Now you take a 20% loss, but it's not 20,000, it's 16,000 because it's on $80,000. You now have $64,000. You need a 56% rate of return in year 3 to just get back to your $100,000. So the losses will always hurt you more than the gains help you. And it doesn't matter what order they come in. If we had a 56% gain in the first year and we went up to 156, and then we had 20% losses, you'd be right back down to your $100,000. But let's say you're following the 4% rule which was invented here in San Diego, and guy ran a bunch of numbers in the early 90s, and statistics and demographics and bond rates have changed since then. So a lot of people argue, myself one of them, that that number isn't valid anymore. But let's say you had that same $100,000 to 20% losses, but you were taking 4% of the original portfolio each year. So about 4,000 out one year, 4,000 out the next year. Third year, you're still retired. So you got to take another 4% out again if you didn't secure that income. And so guess what you need now to break even? An 83% rate of return in year 3 to get back to break even. Let me ask you a question. Even if you get it, how much stress did you have in your life that you just didn't need to have simply because you turned around and took more risk than you really should have been taking? So a couple takeaways here. There's strategies and partners that we use that help protect against that. And what we always say is products are designed to provide solutions to the problems. So you have a problem, we look for a partner of ours that will match that solution. And you should be thinking about this as early as your late 40s, early 50s if you're going to have normal retirement. And most certainly once you get within 10 years of retirement. The second takeaway is, yes, the market always comes back. It always has. But the math changes dramatically within the few years right before and right after you retire, and the minute you start withdrawing money rather than adding money to it. So the aerodynamics change of money, the mathematics change, because once you start applying that distribution, all the numbers go out the window. That 56% rate of return versus an 83% in 1 year rate of return because you're applying some distributions. So if you have any questions on your strategy, or you're not sure how well your strategy would hold up if we started applying some stress tests to it, like market losses, like doubling of taxes, like living longer than expected, like dying sooner than expected, that's all the kind of work that we do in my firm. So number one, be sure to subscribe so you keep getting tips and alerts every time we post a video. And number two, when you're ready, reach out to our team. We'll sit down with you. They've all had years of training in helping our clients identify the stress points and removing that unnecessary risk to secure and empower you to have a secure retirement with guarantees and security, and not worry and fear and concern about what the future might hold.